Anna, and this is Annie.
And this is the 1980s, a year in review. Today is December 31st, 1981, and we're looking back on this year and 1980.
To kick off the show, we're going to start by talking about sports.
Throughout the past 2 years, there's been a lot of important events in sports. We're going to name a couple of them for you.
On January 6, 1980, Phil Flyers set NHL record of 38 straight games without a defeat. January 22nd, 1980, West Indies beat England 2-0 to win the first World Cup Series. January 26, 1980, Mary Decker became the first woman to run a mile in under 4.5 minutes.
On February 9th, Ricky Berry of Houston is first in the NBA to score 8 three-pointers in a game. On February 14th, the 13th Winter Olympic Games open in Lake Placid, New York. On February 16th, Eric Heiden skates 5K in 7 minutes and 2.29 seconds, which was the Olympic record.
On July 20th, Jupp Zoetemelk wins the Tour de France. On December 14th, New Orleans Saints end 14-game losing streak by beating the New York Jets 21-20. December 15th, New York Yankees Dave Winfield becomes highest paid player in 10 years by making $15 million a year.
Moving into 1981, on January 3rd, the Cleveland Cavaliers retired jersey number 34, which was Austin Carnes. On January 11th, the British team led by Ranulph Fiennes completes the longest and fastest crossing of Antarctica, reaching the Scott Base after 75 days, which is 2,500 miles. And on January 15th, Bob Gibson was elected to baseball's Hall of Fame.
On January 23rd, Mikey Boss became the first player in NHL history to score 50 goals in 50 games.
As clutch as he was talented, Bossy would score to get to 49, and with less than 3 minutes remaining, he seized history.
January 25th, Super Bowl 15, Oakland Raiders beat Philadelphia Eagles 27-10. The Super Bowl MVP was Jimmy Puckett, the quarterback of the Oakland Raiders. On February 25th, NHL experienced the most penalized game. Bruins versus North Star experienced 84 penalties.
On April 27th, the first female soccer official is hired by the NASL. On May 1st, tennis player Billie Jean King acknowledges a lesbian relationship with Marilyn Barnett, becoming the first prominent sportswoman to come out.
On October 29, Bill Gillies becomes CEO of the Philadelphia Phillies. And lastly, November 30th, New York Yankees Dave Verhette wins AL Rookie of the Year.
That's it for sports. Now let's go on to celebrities.
On January 16th, Paul McCartney was sent to jail in Tokyo for 10 days for having possession of marijuana. January 18th, Pink Floyd's Wall hits number 1. On January 26th, about 175,000 people paid to hear Frank Sinatra sing in Rio de Janeiro.
On April 11th, Paul McCartney releases Coming Up. And on May 2nd, Pink Floyd's Another Brick in the Wall Part 2 is banned in South Africa. On May 20th, drummer Peter Criss quits Kiss.
On June 23rd, David Letterman Show debuts in NBC TV Daytime. July 18th, Billy Joel's Glass Houses album tops charts. On September 23rd, Bob Marley has his last concert in Stanley Theater, Pittsburgh.
On October 25th, Barbra Streisand's Guilty album goes number 1 for 3 weeks, and her single Woman in Love goes number 1 for 3 weeks as well.
I turn away from the wall, I stumble and fall, but I give you it all. I am a woman in love, and I do anything to get you into my world and hold you within.
On December 4th, 2 months after the death of drummer John Bonham, Led Zeppelin breaks up. On December 8th, Annie Leibovitz has a photo shoot with John Lennon. She was the last person to professionally photograph him before his death. On December 14th at 2 p.m., there is 10 minutes of silence in memory of John Lennon.
On February 6, Beatles, Paul McCartney, Ringo Starr, and George Harrison recorded a tribute to John Lennon. February 21st, Charles Rocket clearly said a bad word on Saturday Night Live. And on February 27th, Paul McCartney and Stevie Wonder recorded Ebony and Ivory.
Ebony and ivory live together in perfect harmony, side by side on my piano keyboard. Oh Lord, why don't we?
On April 20th, rocker Papa John Phillips was arrested for drug possession. And on May 21st, reggae musician Bob Marley receives a Jamaican state funeral. June 12th, Raiders of the Lost Ark was the first Indiana Jones film directed by Steven Spielberg. It was produced by George Lucas and Harrison Ford was the star role.
Let's move into the economy or the government. On January 1st, 1980, Victoria was crowned Princess of Sweden. On January 3rd, gold hits a record of $634 an ounce. January 6th, Indira Gandhi's Congress Party wins election in India.
On January 18th, gold reaches a price of $1,000 an ounce. On January 20th, President Jimmy Carter announces the U.S. boycott of the Olympics in Moscow. February 23rd, the oil tanker explosion off Pylos, Greece causes a 37 million gallon spill.
On February 26th, Egypt and Israel exchanged ambassadors for the first time. On March 31st, President Jimmy Carter deregulates banking industry. On April 23rd, Soviet sub catches fire off Japan. 9 people died.
On July 17th, Ronald Reagan formally accepts the Republican nomination for U.S. President. On November 4th, Ronald Reagan defeats incumbent President U.S. Jimmy Carter by a landslide. And on December 16th, the President-elect Reagan announces Alexander Haig as Secretary of State.
On December 19th, Iran requests $24 billion in U.S. guarantees to free hostages. January 20th, Ronald Reagan is inaugurated as the 40th President of the United States.
Place your left hand on the Bible and raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Ronald Reagan, do solemnly swear.
I, Ronald Reagan, do solemnly swear
That I will faithfully execute.
that I will faithfully execute
The office of President of the United States.
the office of President of the United States
And will to the best of my ability.
and will to the best of my ability
Preserve, protect, and defend.
preserve, protect, and defend
The Constitution of the United
the
States.
Constitution of the United States.
So help me God.
So help me God.
My congratulations, sir.
On March 30th, President Reagan was shot and wounded by John W. Hinckley III. September 25th, Sandra Day O'Connor was sworn in as the first female Supreme Court Justice.
Now for some fun facts. January 6th was the beginning of the first GPS epoch. On January 17th, NASA launches the Fleet Satellite Communication System III. Also that day, a provisional Irish Republican Army bomb prematurely detonates on a passenger train near Belfast, killing 3 and injuring 5, including the bombers.
On January 18th, Studio 54 owners Steve Grobel and Ian Schrager was sentenced to 3.5 years in prison for tax evasion and was fined $20,000 bail. February 4th, Studio 54 holds its grand closing party on its last night in business.
On April 6th, Post-it notes are introduced. On April 14th, the first Cubans of Mariel boat lift sailed to Florida. On April 18th, Zimbabwe, formerly Southern Rhodesia, declares independence from the UK.
After 6 days on the Muriel boat lift, Cubans have arrived in the U.S. May 2nd, Pope John Paul II begins the African tour. June 27th, the first female state police graduated in New Jersey.
On July 7th, the Safra massacre happened in Lebanon. And on July 9th, Walt Disney's The Fox and the Hound was released.
July 21st, Jean-Claude Drouyer climbs the Eiffel Tower in 2 hours and 18 minutes. On July 30th, Vanuatu gained independence from Britain and France. August 4th, Hurricane Aline kills 272 people in Texas and the Caribbean.
On September 13th, the first United Negro College Fund was established. On September 26th, a bomb attack on Oktoberfest in Munich happened and 12 people were killed. On October 10th, 4,500 people died when a pair of earthquakes strikes northwest Algeria.
On October 15th, Nobel Prize for Economy was awarded to Lawrence R. Klein. On November 14th, Kimberly Santos, 19th of Guam, was crowned the 30th of Miss World. December 8th, Bravo Network premieres on cable TV.
On January 1st, Greece is the first country to join the European Economic Community. On that same date, the International Year for the Disabled begins. On January 4th, the British police arrest the Yorkshire Ripper, Peter Sutcliffe.
January 18th, Iran accepts U.S. offer of $7.9 billion in frozen assets. January 20th, 52 Americans held hostage in Iran for 444 days was finally freed. On February 13th, the longest sentence was published on the New York Times, 1,286 words.
On February 24th, an earthquake registering 6.7 on the Richter scale hits Athens, killing 16 people and destroying buildings in several towns of the West City. April 14th, the first space shuttle, Columbia 1, returns to Earth.
20, 10, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, touchdown. Those gears, 10 feet. 5, 4, 3, touchdown. Welcome home, Columbia. Beautiful, beautiful.
April 24th, IBM PC computers are introduced. On May 13th, Pope John Paul II is shot and critically wounded by a Turkish gunman named Mehmet Ali Agca in St. Peter's Square, Vatican City.
On June 3rd, Pope John Paul II was released from the hospital after the assassination attempt. On July 24th, Mohammad Ali Rajeh was elected president of Iran. On August 1st, MTV premieres at 12:01 a.m.
On September 16th, the first broadcast of Miami Vice is on NBC TV. On October 21st, the U.S. national debt hits $1 trillion.
On November 12th, the first balloon crossing of the Pacific was completed, Double Eagle 5. On December 7th, Spain became a member of the NATO.
Now, here's the fashion of the 1980s.
During the 1980s, women had two different types of styles. Men either wore neutral colors or bright neon colors. On the other hand, men wore sports coats and slacks and usually dressed like tennis players.